Welcome back to another episode of the podcast From the Depths of Darkness to the Light of Success. I am your host, Chris Swick, and on the show we talk about mental health, addictions, recovery, and really anything anyone's afraid to talk about it. We talk about it on this show today, everyone. I believe everyone's story is valuable. Doesn't matter what walk of life you come from. You all mean something to me. We should all take care of our mental health on a daily basis, checking in with one another, seeing how everyone's doing. And just giving back to the community is what it's all about on this show, and helping one another along the way. Everyone's story will help someone else along the way. We all battle the same demons some days in a different way. We all come from a different walk of life. But with no further ado, I'd love to introduce to you my next guest. I got George Currie from the Peterborough area of Ontario. You want to take it away and let them know a little bit about you, please?
I'm sure. I never know what to say about myself in these things. So I'll start with what I do now. Now I'm a complex case manager with a program called the Mobile Support Overdose Resource Team here in Peterborough. And this is my second career. I've been working in addictions and mental health for 6 years now. And before that, I was in the business world. I had my own 10-year battle with opiate addiction, and took those 10 years and one day thought to myself, is this my life, or am I going to do something with this? And I decided to do something with that 10 years, that figure something out that I could maybe help other people and help myself along the way.
That's amazing, George. And I love that you're on the overdose awareness mobile unit and stuff down in the Peterborough area there. So what's your role within your community, and what are you doing to make it a better place today?
So our role is, if our kind of mandate is to respond to anyone who's overdosed or who is at risk of overdose within 24 hours of that kind of acute overdose event. We get referrals from paramedics. We have a paramedic on our team, which is great. So we get referrals from paramedics. We get referrals from other community members, from the police. So it's really to get to that person and offer support right away. Try and judge where they're at the moment. We're coming at it from a harm reduction perspective rather from an abstinence type perspective, because there's a lot of people out there who aren't ready to make change. And our kind of goal is to try and keep them safe until they are ready to make that change, if they ever are ready. It's Everybody has their own path they walk, and we try and walk on that path with them and support them however they need supported.
And that's amazing. Like, it's great to see these, mobile units in the community. I know there's a couple, and there's some around in my community in Guelph here as well. And it's nice to see the outreach people out there in the community. But the nice thing about it is, and the nice thing I like, is that these people like yourself have been through those battles with addiction, opiates, whatever drug it is, and you have firsthand experience, which is nice. It's not like they're throwing someone that has a bachelor's degree and whatever, but has no firsthand experience. You've lived
Yeah.
the life that these people are living. You can relate to them. You can put yourself in their shoes, which is nice.
It's one of those things, and the beautiful thing about our team as well is so I have lived experience. We've also got three peer workers from an organization called PARN, which is a community AIDS resource network. So those peer workers come along as well, and they've all got lived experience. So it helps. I find that it really helps. Book learning is great. Book learning is important. I've done that as well, but that's not what kind of creates the emotional bond between people. It's knowing. Now, when someone says they're using because they don't want to go they don't want to get dope sick, they don't want to go into withdrawal, I totally understand what withdrawal feels like, and can completely understand how you're not using to get high anymore. You're using because you just don't want to get sick and you just want to feel normal. And that's hard for someone to understand if they haven't gone through it themselves.
100%. Like, I know my partner had to put up with that for a few months, a couple months of me being dope sick, the withdrawals and stuff like that coming off the drugs. And it's painful for your loved ones to go through. So you talked about a little earlier too. Let's circle back to, you had a battle with addiction as well. Like, what drove you down that road, or was it opiates that you were prescribed for pain at one time, and then it just, spiraled out of control?
Yeah, it's such a funny thing because my kids make fun of me because all through high school growing up, the hardest drug you ever did was mushrooms, and that was once on New Year's, and I spent all day staring at tinsel. And that was my drug experience, but it wasn't until I was about 35-ish. I had suffered from migraines all my life. And it was the later I found out it was the cluster migraines, which are some people call them the suicide migraines, which is a kind of unfortunate name, but the pain is so intense that you'll do anything to try and alleviate that pain. But I was in a situation where I was really successful in my job. I was in loss prevention and internal auditing for a big company, and I had lots of all of Canada as a territory, plus some in the States. So I was always traveling all over the place, and I'd always get these headaches. And I was safe because I knew my family doctor. I could go to the family doctor, get a shot of Demerol, go home, everything would be okay. I never had any drugs at home, anything like that. It wasn't till later that my family doctor, he retired, and I was referred to a specialist who right away started prescribing me opiates. So I started with a nasal spray that you can't even get in Canada anymore. It was one of those big pharma things where this is a narcotic, but it's not addictive. And I was given about 12 bottles a month of this non-addictive narcotic, which I've obviously come to understand that there's no such thing. And when that stopped working, it didn't really stop working. My tolerance just got so high that it wasn't doing anything for me. He put me on fentanyl patches. And yeah, the fentanyl patches was probably 7 years. And unfortunately, I've always been of the mentality, if this works, this will work even better. So I found ways of, I'd cut open the fentanyl patches and take at that time, it was almost like a hand sanitizer glue in them. So I'd squirt that into a Dristan bottle and I'd snort the fentanyl. And I ended up it's funny looking back because my addiction was funded by an insurance company, and I had a doctor who would give me I basically had 5 patches a week that I had access to. So 5 times 50, 20 patches a month he'd basically give me. So it's not like I even had to struggle to get the drug. It was there. Yeah, that was where I went down the rabbit hole. Unfortunately, I was so lucky that I have a supportive family. I have 3 girls, and my wife and I just celebrated our 30th anniversary, so she somehow got through it with me. But yeah, and the interesting thing is I managed to get off the fentanyl. I went cold turkey off the fentanyl because another my this doctor that was prescribing me all the narcotics diagnosed me also as having a stroke. And I said, there's no way I had a stroke. So I went for a second opinion, and that the doctor said, I can't tell if you had a stroke because you're on so many drugs. So I went cold turkey off the drugs, and that's 6 weeks of my life that I can't even remember. There's things that Caroline won't even tell me happened during that 6 weeks, but it was just the withdrawal was just so intense. And yeah, that was me off it for 3 years, and then 3 years later, I ended up in hospital with my migraines and got a prescription for hydromorphcontin, and I was on the merry-go-round for another 3 years after that. And I understood after my second bout, my second 3 years, I looked back at what did I do that was wrong? Why didn't my recovery stick the first time? And looking back, it was really, I wasn't transparent with people. I wasn't accepting of my own role in what happened. It was easy to blame doctors, but I definitely had a role in what happened as well. But I think that the transparency, the accountability, and the just acceptance is really what helped with it's been 10 years now. And I've been off of it. I think if I hadn't have come to those terms myself, I would probably still be on that roller coaster of relapse recovery and going around and around.
And that's amazing though that you like you said, I love that you said transparency. It's huge, especially in recovery with anything in life. Being transparent, having humility is key to my life and my, own doing today with whatever I do. You got to have humility. You have to be honest, be transparent. Even if it sucks that you have to share whatever it is, it's going to make you feel a hell of a lot better if you just do it right away and not hide it. And because the more you hide it and bury it, it's going to come back to bite you even harder in the ass when it comes to get you.
Oh, for sure. When I was on the fentanyl, I explained why I need so many patches because I used to say that they just don't stick to my skin. They don't stick to my skin. So I do everything that I could to make it look that way. I get bandages and wrap my arm in bandages to make it look like I was trying to get these things to stick. Even after my bout with fentanyl, Caroline wasn't aware of what I was doing. She legitimately thought I was dependent on the drug rather than addicted to the drug. So I was physically dependent on it because I had it so much. She didn't understand that I was misusing it and doing all sorts of things that I shouldn't have been doing with that drug. And I guess that accountability and transparency was forced on me the second time around because the hydromorph contin, I no longer had a doctor who was just willing to prescribe. He would give me one prescription a month and that would be it. But what I ended up doing was falsifying prescriptions, and I'd falsify. I was at the end of my addiction with the hydromorphs, I was taking 100 pills a day, and yeah,
And you're still living.
I know, go figure. But in order to do that, I was falsifying prescriptions every 3 days, and I finally got caught. My doctor actually changed his doctor number, and that's how I got caught falsifying prescriptions. And thank God he didn't call the police. He said I could call the police, but he said, "I don't think, jail or going through that process is gonna help you, but if I see one more prescription come over my desk, then I'm gonna call the police." And he was my GP until I moved up here to Peterborough, so I stayed with him a long time after that. Yeah, but then it was Caroline was had that can I swear on this podcast?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Had this holy shit moment that how could I have been so blind? And she started taking everything on her, and it was like, "No, this isn't on you. This is" there was no more manipulative or no one who could pull the wool over your eyes easier than I could, and she intrinsically wanted to trust me. She intrinsically wanted to trust that what I was going through was just a reflection of my headaches and everything physically that was happening, and she didn't see the addiction. Looking back, she sees it. And she sees, "Oh my god, this makes a lot of sense now." But it's interesting. I completely opened up and told her what I did, what I was doing, what I did with the fentanyl, and told her exactly how I would do it. I always tell the story of 3 years ago, she was going through my pockets doing the laundry and found a broken pen in my pocket. And I used to take apart pens and use the pens to snort the drug. And she came right at me and said, "What is this?" And confronted me. I said, "Oh my God, sometimes a broken pen is just a broken pen." And
Trigger for her though.
it's definitely a trigger for her. And it's such great accountability for me as well, though.
And I like
Like,
that you bring that up too, because I have those moments as well with my partner, with my fiance, and going through she was so naive, and like you said, pulling the wool over your partner's eyes or whatever, but she can see through it now. But she has those moments where she finds something or sees something that really triggered me, but at least we can openly talk about it now and holds me accountable, being transparent and stuff today.
exactly. It's huge. And I found the other thing that is a real difference in myself is that kind of, oh, we call it radical acceptance, accepting things that either good things happen to you, shitty things happen to you, mediocre things happen to you, but how do you move forward from what has happened? Because I find that especially with the clients who we're dealing with now, with who are going through so much trauma and they're living rough, the unimaginable trauma in from being a youngster, and they just can't get out of that trauma cycle. And the big thing for me is, okay, it happened. I need to move on. And that sounds so easy to say, but it's so difficult for people who are trapped in that cycle, and that's what uses sometimes what keeps them using whatever substance they're using. But it really is. I really am a duck. The water flows off my back now. I try not to let things bother me like I used to. If I felt I was wronged, it used to infuriate me. But now I try and use that acceptance and look at it from the other person's point of view and say, okay, was this person intentionally trying to hurt me? No, probably not. Did this person intentionally try and cut me off? No, probably not. they might be having a bad day too. So I always have that internal dialogue to try and keep myself.
I like that you use that example about the person cutting you off or not signaling and pulling into your lane. Because we had that chat, that dialogue at therapy a while back with my therapist, her and I, and she's like, "Yeah, you just gotta put yourself in their shoes, like, maybe they're having a worse off day than you are,
Yeah,
and you don't need to get mad and slam on the horn or go and cut them off next because it's just gonna cause a bigger problem. Just let it roll off your back and keep going. Maybe they're in a bigger rush than you.
yeah,
Maybe they're late for something."
yeah.
It's whatever it is, it doesn't matter at the end of the day. It didn't harm you, it didn't affect your day, so let it go and keep on trucking.
Yeah, and you know what? The only time I have a problem with that is if it's my kids. If I feel that my kids have been wronged or someone's wronging my kids, then the kind of daddy bear thing starts to come back. But even then, I have to sit back and go, "Hey, not my circus, not my monkeys." You know, they're
I
at
like that.
so yeah,
Not my
let them out
circus,
so they
not
can
my
deal with it.
monkeys.
Exactly.
So, does addiction run in your family, George? No?
Not at all. Not at all. My
Well, you're an only child. I remember we had that conversation.
Yeah, I am an only child, and you know what? It was I still remember my dad coming back from the office, and the first thing he'd do would be to get a scotch and soda if he had a rough day or something, but he'd have one, and that would be it. There was never a there was never a proclivity to one is too many and a thousand not enough type thing. There was never that kind of issue going on. So no, I've it never saw it in my family. Never occurred to me that it would be me because even in the height of my addiction, I never thought, "Oh my, I'm an addict." You know, that didn't cross my mind.
I don't think it
No,
crossed many addicts' minds
exactly.
till they
Yeah,
have hit their rock bottom or whatever that looks like for someone else. It doesn't cross your mind. You have to admit that you're the addict before you can get the help or need the help you
yeah.
need, sort of thing.
And the problem with rock bottom is I find there's a lot of people out there just getting bigger shovels. No, when does rock bottom? Because for myself, it just became a case of it's overused, but the old I got sick and tired of being sick and tired. And everything revolved around I'd go to bed at night, I'd have a panic attack if I didn't have the drug for the next morning because I knew I'd wake up in withdrawal because I was so tolerant to it that it would just I'd have to use every 4 hours to keep withdrawal going, but everything surrounded that and nothing else mattered except the drug, which again, it's one of those things, if you don't have lived experience, you don't understand that your family doesn't matter. Of course, you care about people, you love people, but nothing takes precedent over that drug, and you'll do anything to get that drug, and it's damn the consequences. I could have gone to jail. Caroline, when she picked up my prescriptions, could have gone to jail for picking up those prescriptions, but I didn't care as long as it was a means to an end to getting the drug.
Yeah, and it's true though. The addict really doesn't give a shit who he or she is hurting along the way to get whatever they need. As long as they get what they need, that's all that matters to them. That's the unfortunate thing. And
Yeah,
I was the same way. It didn't matter how I got it, who I got it from, when I was doing it, where I was doing it. As long as I had it, that's all that mattered to me. It didn't matter who I hurt along the way.
yeah,
I had to fix so many train wrecks afterwards. I'm still slowly making amends.
yeah. Yeah, trust is one of the hardest things, one of the easiest things to lose and the hardest thing to build up again. And,
Tell me about it.
yeah, yeah.
Tell me about it. So when do you feel the happiest today, George?
I feel I'll do this from a personal sense, I feel the happiest watching my kids and watching what they're doing. I've got one daughter who is, just graduated from the National Theatre School in playwriting, so that's really exciting. I've got another daughter who's going to she calls it clown school, but she's going to Humber, their comedy writing program, and, watching her flourish and doing stand-up and yuck yucks and all that kinda stuff. It's great to watch that, and my other daughter she's been in banking for a while, and now she's changing her life as well, and she's going to get her, bachelor's of social work.
That's
Um,
amazing.
I like to think I had some kind of impact on that, but yeah, I think she sees the joy that I get out of, helping people, and that's not rose-colored glasses. We in our job right now, we definitely have a lot of sorrow and a lot of a lot of death, unfortunately, a lot of tragedy, but we do have those individual stories that we hang on to, and that brings me a lot of joy as well as watching that and watching people come to their own realization of what they need to do to help themselves. I can't push people to do something because I know, again, personally, if you're going to push me to do something, I'm going to push harder back to not do it. So it's watching people come to their own realizations of what they need to do. And as I say, Caroline's been with me for 30 years somehow, dealing with our ups and downs. And that always amazes me looking back that, wow, you must be a saint. I don't know. I don't know how. I said to her one day, I said, don't take this as an insult. But if the tables were turned, I don't know if I would still be here. If she was going through what I was going, I don't know if I could have supported her the way she supported me.
I feel you the same way though. Like my partner, I look at her as a saint as well. And like you just said, I like that you say that though. If the tables were turned, I don't know, because she's such an empath, and
Mhm.
I didn't have an empathetic bone in my body the whole time I was in active addiction. That wasn't who Chris was. I was all about the lying, cheating, manipulation, stealing, whatever I had to do to get my drug of choice. I don't know if I could be there to support her though, the way she supported me though. It's so true though. Like but she's the yin to my yang, as she likes to say. So she holds
Yeah,
us down.
yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah,
So what is it that you think, with everything going on, what is it that we need as a community from the government and stuff with all these things going on around addictions and mental health? What kind of help do you think we can use today to see this sort of blossom further and further? Because I we're so underfunded, I find, especially in the province of Ontario. And I read in the news and stuff like that, other places that are so underfunded with mental health and addiction
yeah.
services. These long wait times to get into places and stuff is crazy.
And I think it's why I really love what we're doing with our team because there is no wait time. We're just going out in the community and meeting people, and we're going to people where they are. COVID really affected things because it took away that face to face contact, and we're one of the few people who are still out there providing that face to face contact and being mobile and actually going into people's homes or people's tents or the shelter system and seeing people on a one-on-one type basis. But I think bigger than that, there is so many of our clients are just looking for housing and there is no housing out there. It's house price. I don't know what's going on in Guelph, but house prices here are going through the roof. So even people who are renting houses are seeing that and going, "Oh my god, time to sell because I'm gonna make a bunch of money." But there's developers coming in at buying places, and the government talks about affordable rent, but the people who we're supporting, it's not affordable for them. So even I guess the big thing is how do we give hope to people? Because I think hope is hugely important. Without hope, what's the point? And if you're living in a tent or living in the woods or living under a tarp or even living in the overcrowded shelter system, it's really hard to find any hope in those situations. And I really think we have to make the big issue with the overdoses right now isn't the drug itself, it's the drugs themselves are poisoned. There's people don't have a safe supply. And I always akin this to if imagine opening up a bottle of wine and not being sure if half that wine is antifreeze or if it's all wine. That's what the user, the person who uses drugs is facing now. They're not sure if that what they're putting in their body is all fentanyl or three quarters benzos or a mixture of whatever. So that unsafe supply is a real problem. So I'm a real advocate for the safer supply type model where they can get drugs that aren't tainted by something else. We are pushing right now for our consumption treatment site in Peterborough. We don't have one yet. We're just opening an opiate hub where our our team will be there'll be a community withdrawal management team, which is again a withdrawal management team that goes out to people who are in withdrawal to help them through that. But there'll also be a nurse and a paramedic, so a whole bunch of people in one place to help the individual. But from a systemic point of view, I think safer drug supply, decriminalization, all those kind of things that kind of take it out of the realm of right and wrong, good and bad. Because even when I was using it, I never thought of myself as a bad person. Maybe some of the things I was doing were bad, but as a society, we try and pigeonhole people. Oh, you use drugs, you're a bad person. You're a bad person. And we forget to see that this is a tiny piece of the whole of that person. And we tend to concentrate on that little tiny piece, whereas we're not seeing the dad, the mom, the sister, the good employee, the whatever else is going on in that person's life.
I like that you say that though too. I'm a firm believer. I don't use no more nothing, but I would rather have a safer supply if I was using because for the longest time, like I didn't know what I was getting. I wasn't always getting from the same person all the time either.
Yeah,
And you don't know what you really don't know what you're getting. 25 years ago, I could say, yes, I knew what I'm getting, but as the years rolled on, you don't know. I have friends that are in police services and firefighters. He's just it's crazy the amount of I don't even go fight fires anymore. It's mostly overdose is and stuff that I'm going to nowadays. And it's not that there isn't fires and those types of things, but it's mostly overdoses they're going to these days.
yeah, absolutely. Most of the calls are overdoses. Yeah, yeah,
It's crazy, but we should take on there's other countries over in Europe that have totally legalized all drugs and decriminalized all drugs, and the crime rates, all those things have gone down, and I would like to see that before I pass myself as well. I think it would be a great idea for our country to take on.
yeah. And it's hard. I can understand how it's hard for people to understand how decriminalization would work, but they've got to understand that the money, and it depends how it's put into place. Because if you take all that money that they're spending right now on prosecuting, on putting people in jail and do nothing with it, then decriminalization might not work. But if you take that money and put it into social services and maybe housing and mental health, then you're actually helping people deal with the issues that are causing them to use. Because I don't know if anybody really who are supporting who started using drugs just for fun. There's always a reason, and it's getting to the it's getting to that reason why, and also the reason why they want to change that are the important things. It's not the drug use itself; it's everything that's behind that.
100%, George. There is always a reason to why someone begins using. For myself, I will openly admit it was because I was molested as a child.
Yeah,
And it I didn't come out about that for over 25 years till
yeah,
2.5 years ago or whatever. And when I came out about that and why, and this is why I was using, I'd always bundle up my feelings because I didn't know how to talk about it, but I'm getting better. I'm nowhere near perfect and nor will I ever be perfect. I can try to do 1% better than I was yesterday is my motto.
and even when I look back at there's things that, for example, at the time in my life when the narcotics came into my life, I was completely burned out at work. And if I wasn't completely burned out at work, would it have had such a hold? Maybe not. I don't know, but maybe not. There's got to be. I know that for a while there, it sure made work more interesting. But it was the same after I was off it for 3 years and then went back on. It was another situation where I changed jobs. Was with the telecommunications company trying to start up a security department, and it was something I was completely unprepared to do. I didn't understand telecommunications or anything, and the drugs came back into my life at that time as well. And if it wasn't for all the stress and everything I was under, would I have started doing it again? Maybe not. I can't say, but who knows? But I think there's always something in our life that kind of, there's an engine driving the addiction somewhere.
100%. And maybe it's genetics. Who knows if you're born with
Yeah.
that addictive personality and those types of things. Sometimes it might run down the generational tree, the generations and the family tree and stuff like that. I don't know either. I have other family members that are clean and sober now, but maybe it is generational. Maybe it is in the genes and stuff like that. But everyone's their own and unique individual at the end of the
Yeah.
day.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So what was this week's or what has been this week's high for you? And not getting high, George.
I think it was that we got the Christmas tree up without yelling at each other.
Nice.
We in the past, as we just moved to Peterborough about a year and a half ago. And we decided we'd live on the main floor of our house, and we built the in-law suite for my mom downstairs. But upstairs is a 12-foot ceiling. So Caroline really wanted a big tree this year. So we got a big tree, and somehow it's still standing, and we're yell at each other. So that was my
High for the week.
my high for the week.
They didn't kill one another. We're putting up the Christmas tree. I feel you there.
Yeah.
I'm not allowed to touch the Christmas decorations at my house. My fiance has a way she likes to do it, so I just let her do her thing. I'll help her. Actually, I'll be honest. This year, I didn't help go get the stuff from the studio or nothing, but I'll help her get it here. And she just says, "Leave me alone." She's like, "I just sit at home. I'll have my glass of wine while you're at work, and I will get it done myself."
Yeah.
Yeah.
The unfortunate thing about it this year is we actually need a ladder
Oh yeah.
to put this stuff on it. So yeah, I shouldn't speak prematurely because we haven't put any lights on it yet. So there's still time. But
There's still time.
yeah.
Before we go, George, where can everyone find you? I know you're not set as public on social media or nothing, but if they want to follow you and everything, where can they find you over on Instagram?
I'm probably most I'm on Instagram. I think my username is Duncarin, Duncarin. My dogs are way more popular. I run an Instagram for my dogs as well. And
What's the dog's account? So everyone can go follow. Everyone loves pets.
the dogs are Orby and Socks. So Orby _and _SOX.
Perfect. George's dogs and everything over on Instagram too, everyone.
Exactly. Yeah. One's a 14-year-old border collie, and one's a year-and-a-half-old Mexican rescue dog. Yeah.
Like a Heinz 57 almost.
Exactly. Exactly. It certainly is. And he's brought the puppy out in the 14-year-old dog. It's
Perfect. That's amazing. So
yeah.
before I go,
It's interesting you say that because
yeah.
it was social media was one of the things, especially Facebook, it was part of my acceptance that I said, you know what, I've had enough. I've had enough of, especially with what I do for a living, comments, and it just used to infuriate me. I said, you know what, I don't need to bring that into my life. I can just, and it was really hard to let go of Facebook. I still have an account just because Caroline likes to tag me in things, but I never go on and look at it. And I think I've only got 10, my immediate family as followers, but it was just, there was a lot of negativity I found. It just wasn't something I wanted to invite in my life anymore. So
Hey, fair enough, everyone. And we don't need that negativity in our life. And I feel you there with Facebook some days. So I like Instagram. I think it's a lot more fun and use it in a proper way. But before we go, George, what, is one good piece of advice you could give an addict today
oh boy.
or someone out there struggling?
I think it comes down to that hope again, that there is hope. There's always hope. And again, it's the hardest thing because it sounds like bullshit when you say that to somebody. Hey, there's always hope. Look at me. And I never do that, but that's what it sounds like. Just even there's nothing more powerful than a smile. There's nothing more powerful than just taking the time to talk to somebody. And so many of the people we support, people just pass them by and don't even look at them. And so I think I never give advice, but I think that providing human connection is the most important thing that we can do for that person.
I love that you say that. There's nothing more important than a smile.
Yeah.
You hear that, everyone? It's so true, though. Just, you never know how someone's day's going, and you could uplift them and help them out with just walking by and smiling, not even saying hi or hello or bye or anything. Just a smile could help someone out.
It's acknowledging that person's presence because yeah, I hate to speak for people, but they do feel like they're invisible and they're seen as a bother. And yes, it is. I personally don't give money to people on the streets, but I will stand and talk. And
That's okay. I have my personal reasons. I don't really give money out either. But if they ask, yeah, come on with me. I'll grab you a slice of pizza. I've been known to do that, or
yeah,
get you a coffee or something. But that's just me because I know where that money's going, and it is what it is. But sometimes I do give money, and that's okay. I was there too at one time.
yeah, yeah.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
But with no further ado, we've come to the end of the show today, George. But I truly appreciate you coming on, sharing your insights, your stories, and just I know it's going to help someone. This story will.
And if anybody needs, if anybody wants to learn more about the program, I'll give out my email, or you can give out the email, or
Not a problem. Yeah, I will gladly pass that out and stuff too, and
okay.
put that in the show notes. But I
Perfect.
truly appreciate you coming on the show today, George, and you have a great rest of your day.
All right, man. You too. Thanks.
You're welcome.